Christina, Marketing Executive at Commusoft. Here, we're all about educating and empowering field service businesses to create remarkable customer experiences. How do we do this? Well, we'd like to highlight a series of forward-thinking leaders in the industry and get them to dish out their best tips, all supported by the best of evidence, their continuous success. Today, we have Josh Warren, CEO of VitalStorm. He's an expert in lead generation, marketing for service businesses, and he's got over 10 years of experience in helping owners and managers grow their companies. So he's definitely doing something right. Let's find out more. Josh, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you.
Lovely. It's so good to have you. I know you have a very busy schedule, so we'll get started straight away. Speaker, consultant, marketing expert, CEO. You're based in Dallas. You help loads of service companies fill their call boards with qualified leads. How did it all come together? Tell us a little bit about your story, Josh.
Yeah, so like most stories come together, it's just one door opens and then the next door opens and then the next opens. But myself and my partner started this agency about 10 years ago, 2011, I believe. Prior to that, I was doing sort of the same thing, but on a much smaller scale. We ended up developing some tracking software that we might talk about today that allowed us to consider the bigger scale partnership as we were both doing our own things in our own neck of the woods. And we decided to jump in and we started VitalStorm together, and we've just grown from there. And we work strictly with trades, strictly with home service companies, local service companies. That's our thing.
Perfect. Getting straight to the point. How come you chose service companies? Was this something that you had experience in, or did you think that, oh, these are businesses that I can definitely help?
Well, it was kind of all of the above of what you just said. I grew up in the home of a contractor. My dad, carpenter, builder, tradesman himself. But that wasn't initially why I got started. I actually had a friend from high school, believe it or not, started a trade company and needed some help with marketing. At the time, I was actually, you mentioned that I live in Dallas. I was born and raised here, but at the time I was living in Los Angeles, thinking that I was going to go down a path of video production, and I was working on some fun, cool stuff. But we had our first son and decided it's time to move back to Texas. And in doing so, I had to start over again and sort of rekindle this relationship with that friend of mine. And he said, look, I need some help in the marketing area. Can you figure it out? And so I took the challenge and I figured it out, at least to the point of what he was asking for. And then it just built on from there. And then, like I mentioned, a few years later, I came across Jeff, my business partner, and then it really started.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that how the best things come together?
Absolutely.
Anyway, Josh?
Absolutely.
I mean, that really reminds me, it's almost exactly how Commusoft was started too. Our CEO, Jason, was working in university as a software. Well, he was studying business, but he was doing software as a hobby. And his friend just needed a management software for his plumbing company. And that was the first Commusoft client, and he's still a client. So I reckon, it's a good origin story.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I'm sure everyone knows this, but just to make sure we're on the same page, I wanted to ask you a little bit about lead generation, because that's what, at the end of the day, VitalStorm is about. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. If you have a different point of difference, now's the time to say it. But I wanted to ask you, what's so great about lead generation? What exactly is the role it plays in the overall strategy, specifically for service companies? Because I think this is why we try to create this series, because there's so much advice, business advice for generic companies that doesn't really apply to trades businesses. So we want to bring something that's specifically designed for them. So yeah, lead generation and the trades industry, how come they go together?
Okay, so like you said, most people probably have some sort of concept of what lead generation is, but I don't think that it's been simplified enough for some people. It's incredible how many times I come across a company that may have been in business for 10, 15, 20 years, and they still haven't really figured out lead gen. And so I make it very simple. So they're not going to put money in the bank. unless their technicians are in the home making repairs or replacements. Well, they're not going to get in the home unless the call center books the appointment. The call center is not going to book the appointment unless the phone call or the email is sent, and that's not going to happen if there's no ad or lead generation. And so most companies are really good. Most home service companies are really good at keeping things dialed in to a process. They have a very clear strategy when it comes to how they operate their business. They make certain that they train their technicians very, very well. They make sure that they have quality control measures in place so that they can monitor and make sure that things are being done well. But one place that seems to be missing is in the whole big piece of the pie that's necessary for the rest of the pie to exist in lead generation. There's no strategy, there's no system, there's no process. And so there are a number of channels, a number of ways in which a home service company, a local company, can generate leads. And it's absolutely crucial. If there are no leads on the call board, as we call it, then they're not going to have those trucks leave their yard and go out to do their services. And so there has to be a steady stream of calls. We call it, instead of lead generation, since like you said, that word is used a lot, we call it call flow or lead flow. And that's what we sort of coach on, is how to get lead flow in your business so that you understand that part's covered, and you've got a system and a process and quality control measures to see where the ROI is, if it's happening, are your certain indicators being met, just like you do in the other areas of your business. And so lead generation is crucial. It's vital to a home service company staying in business. If you don't have leads, you're not going to be in business.
Mm-hmm. So basically, unless somebody hears about you, there's no technician in the home, there's no money in the bank. You got to do what you got to do. Is that how you came up with the name Vital Storm? Because it's vital to have a flow.
Yes, somewhat. So, when you're thinking of a name of a company, especially an agency, you feel compelled to be creative, right? It's got to be smart and clever and funny, because there's so much pressure.
It needs to sound cool.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Yeah. Cool is a factor.
And we knew that there's things that are vital to these organizations. And so Vital Storm, we wanted to just storm the market and storm our clients, our partners with leads. Our happiest day is when they call us and say, hey, can you pull back a little bit, because there's just too much coming out of the fire hose, right? And so that's exciting. And so lead generation in home services and in the trades is different than lead generation in other areas, and it's because it's all direct response, and so the ad has to trigger an immediate response, and then it's in the demand capture space more than it is in the demand creation space. So for example, there are a certain amount of people who woke up today, this morning, and needed a plumber in this area, in the town I am in right now. There's only a certain number of people that need a plumber, and you cannot change that number unless maybe perhaps you were going out the night before with a crew and you're like breaking people's pipes and clogging their drains and toilets. But that would be a different story. Other than that, there's a buying army that is new every day. And so in the trades, it's really important that you have a process in place where you can capture absolutely as much of that demand as possible. And then as you grow, you start to understand certain sectors of your market and the demand that you want and don't want. So maybe there's some homes you don't want to go to, or some customers you don't want to go to, because maybe you know that the jobs aren't going to be as profitable, or it just might be out of your zone, right? So then you get real creative with how to capture the right demand. But it's all about demand capture. And so back to your original question, if you're going to run a successful trades business, you have to capture the demand that is new every single day. Later, you can talk about how to generate new demand, maybe with some other, types of products or services you sell. But for the most part, what keeps a plumber or an electrician or a heating and air company on the road with their technicians busy is capturing absolutely as much demand as possible.
A lot of companies struggle with this because at the end of the day, and we're going to talk about it, so you guys watching at home, stick stick with us because we're going to get to the busy season, slow season question in a little bit, because I know that's what people are waiting for. It is something that a lot of companies think they have no control over. I don't know if this is something you might come across, Josh, but it's definitely something we see with some of our clients where it's like customers come, customers go, but the company has no control over it. So they're basically just, keeping their fingers crossed. And that's really no way to run a business. I mean, how do you do forecasts? How do you prepare for next year when you don't really have a good understanding of, exactly what you said, your call flow, which is an excellent word. Call flow. You want things to be flowing through. You want people to come down on your website, call your admin, you put them in your booking, in your calendar, you send a technician, you send out the invoice, they get paid, you've got money in the bank, start again. Am I right, Josh?
You're right. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Right.
Great. So you mentioned VitalStorm is a digital agency. You specialize in helping people, achieve this call flow. But I mean, there's usually two pathways that people come across strategies like this. When they realize they have an issue, they want this steady demand. Some people consider marketing in-house. Some people consider an agency. What are like 2-3 reasons why you think they should go for an agency? I mean, I imagine you think they should go for an agency.
Yeah.
But yeah, what would you advise? What is your advice for trace businesses?
Yeah, and you pointed it out. I'm biased, right? I run an agency. I want people to reach out to agencies. I'll tell you this. I think that because I know obviously as we partner with companies, home service companies, to work with them, I get to know them and I understand how they run their businesses. And I run my own business. And so when you hire people, you delegate responsibility. You have to train them, equip them, resource them, and then you have to hold them accountable. And so this is probably not a space. Let's say the owner of a plumbing company is watching right now. This is maybe marketing is something that they've done in a previous life, or maybe they're like most of the guys we come across. It's new to them. And so my question is, my answer to that question is maybe a few other questions. The first question being, how are you going to train that person, and how are you going to hold them accountable? How are you going to measure that person? And the truth is, it will be difficult for you to do so. Now, you still have to pick the right agency, monitor what they're doing, and hold them accountable. But it is a bit different in that two people are doing business together, and the agency isn't looking to you for training or resources or a raise or a bonus or anything like that. They've got that covered in their own organization, but your employees most certainly are. And if you're reviewing your employees and you're measuring them, or giving them a scorecard or whatever it might be, how are you going to do that is the question. So figuring that out, if you want to hire internally in-house and build the team there, go for it. So we actually work with all the scenarios. We work with partners that have an in-house team, and maybe they're coming to us now going, hey, in-house team isn't quite figuring this out. Can you come and help? Or we work with a partner that maybe has no marketing team, no one on their staff to handle any of it. So we do all of it. And then we also have those, like most of our partnerships, which is kind of a hybrid of both. They have a small team and they rely on us for other things. That's what I recommend, that you have someone on your team, if it's not yourself, that owns the brand. They own the name. They eat, sleep, and breathe your core values, and they know what the market, they have a very keen eye on what the market should know and understand about your organization. But everything else, all the expertise should lie with an expert. And I'll just being honest here, most young people or even old people who have grown up wanting to be an expert in graphic design or in coding or development or even digital marketing, probably most likely aren't looking to work for an organization like yours. Nothing against your organization. It's just that they're looking at an agency. They want to go on their own and start their own business. And so it's likely that most of that talent lives outside of your organization. And that's okay, because I think that outside of your organization, they're exposed to innovation. They're exposed to the competition of them wanting to grow in their own career and do well. When you bring someone in, you find that right person. They could have all the experience. They could be they could, understand your values, and they come on and be a perfect hire. I believe over time, you'll begin to see some scope creep where they're no longer exposed to the things in their sphere like they would be if they were out in the agency life, in the agency world. And so if you can bring someone on, keep them exposed to innovation and challenge them to grow and sharpen their skills, and you know how to hold them accountable, and you know how to train them and know how to resource them, then you will most likely have success. But in most cases, though, that's going to be difficult. So I love the partnership, the marriage between an in-house team, maybe a marketing manager and a few team members that support that, and a great relationship with an agency. I think those partnerships work really well because both organizations then are set to grow their own organizations by helping each other grow. So as one grows, the other grows, and that's to me the perfect marriage between agency and client.
Then both companies get to grow and they both get to learn. And there's also something to say about obviously an agency being an expert in their field, having years and years and years of experience, which sometimes smaller businesses, like you said, they cannot afford to hire someone who has 10, 15 years of marketing experience. And it's quite different. You can obviously hire someone and train them, but then that is a lot of investment to make. Then again, let's be honest here. As any partnership, it can sour sometimes, or you run certain risks. And I really wanted to ask you, because you have this experience, Josh. Let's say VitalStorm is not in the discussion. It's impossible to hire VitalStorm. They're looking at 3 different agencies. What would you tell them to be wary of? Like, what are 3 risks of coming across an agency that's just not up to scratch? What do you think? And how do you spot that?
So great question. I think the first thing to look for is a track record in your space. So we're talking about the trades here. This agency should have a track record in the trades because you shouldn't pay them to learn. You shouldn't pay them for the learning curve. Now, a lot of times when you hire an agency that specializes, typically the cost is a little more, but that's only because they're specialized and they understand and they can charge more because they produce the results. And that's the thing. I don't like to see people get the sticker shock and see the price and hesitate. But it's important though that you do find an agency that specializes in what you do. Otherwise, you're paying them to learn what you do, and that can be a frustrating thing. I also think that it's important that you understand, because this is lead generation, that you understand what they consider a lead, because that's a loosely defined word. For example, in digital marketing for home services, a lead could be a visit to your website, an impression on an ad. It could be a click. It could be a visit. It could be a call. It could be a form submission. And so all of those are slightly different. They may all lead to the same thing, but on their own, they're slightly different. But I think what I've just named so far still isn't far enough. I believe that if you're going to track leads, which you absolutely must track, your leads, you should define a lead as a qualified opportunity. So we call it around here, we call it a qualified lead. And the only way to do that is to go in and review maybe the call recordings or the email submissions, things like that. But it's important for you as the business owner to understand what your agency is calling a lead, because that's how you're going to vet them, and they're going to present themselves as a lead generator. Well, what is a lead? And make sure that that's very, very clear. So number 1, track record in your space. Number 2, what do they define as a lead? And it's really important because I was just looking last week at a partner of ours here in Texas, where we drove, I think it was like 8,600 calls over a minute. And I went looking for this because there are other agencies out there that they consider a lead a phone call over a minute. Well, okay, let me test that. So I went back and I saw that there was 8,600 calls. 8,600 calls. When I pulled out all the calls that were not leads over a minute, it was 1,200 calls. So that's quite a big difference there. So it's understandable that you want to find the right price, the right agency, but it's also important that you make certain that you understand what they're tracking, what they're reporting on, and that they have a track record in your space. Otherwise, it's kind of a gamble.
Such good advice, because again, it comes down to the fact that not enough agencies, not enough, websites, not enough experts specialize in the trade space. And it can be very specific. I mean, clicks to the website, you know,
Yeah.
good enough, I guess. But are those really people who are going to hire a plumber?
Right.
I mean, what does it tell you? I remember when I used to get these calls from people trying to sell me um, a different bill, a different electricity provider and stuff. And I wasn't a homeowner. I was a student. I was renting. But technically, I was a lead for those people when in fact I had absolutely zero decision power when it came to the things that they were selling to me. So maybe an agency sold them my phone number, and I got counted as a lead. But the people who hired them, they paid for a useless phone number. So definitely you want to be on the same track, on the same page as your agency, and to understand what is a qualified lead, because a phone number is not a lead.
Right.
I mean, you don't know where that person is. That person even a homeowner, for example? Like these are the kind of things basic things that your agency needs to understand, that just because they get clicks on the website or followers on Instagram doesn't really mean it's, you're not going towards your cash flow. You're just getting names in a database. Very important. And thank you, Josh, because people pay a lot of money for these. And you can waste a lot of money on so-called lead lists. It's one of my favorite sales emails. Sorry to anyone sending lead sales emails to my address, but yeah, maybe move on.
Yeah.
Excellent, Josh. And well, we're getting there. One of the most important questions that I wanted to ask you, and it's directly related to your call flow concept. One of the biggest issues that a lot of trades businesses deal with is that the demand is just not constant.
Yeah.
Like we said a bit earlier, they don't really know what to expect. They know, for example, okay, plumbing gets a little bit busier in the winter because pipes freeze over, and they need someone in the house, or HVAC gets a bit busier in the summer because people need AC. They realize makes sense. But how do HVAC people stay busy in the winter? How do plumbing people stay busy in the summer? How do we get over this cycle that people struggle with? What would you recommend to companies that want a constant demand? They don't want to be struggling and be unable to answer everyone, but I also don't want to be starving when the slow season comes around.
You're right, and this industry is so seasonally driven, and this is why we started thinking about call flow as opposed to just lead generation. And because here's what call flow or lead flow will get you: consistency. You can think about your leads coming to you through a drippy faucet, right? You just go back to the tap and one drip, two drip, right? Or you go back and there's no drip, so you come back and there's three drips. Or you could go to the fire hose, right, where it's just a strong flow of leads or calls. So it gives you consistency. Lead flow will also give you controllability. So because it's consistent now, you can control how much flow that you want to bring through that call center. And so during the busy seasons, you can ramp up where needed, or even sometimes pull back, because also in those busy seasons, we face two challenges. Number one, it's busy, but I don't have enough leads, and I know I should. What's going on? Or it's busy and I have too many leads. I need to pull back. And so I want to optimize. I don't want to, spend money on leads that are just going to have to, go canceled or unbooked, or I have to pass them away to someone else. And so that controllability is very, very important. And then the third thing it gives you is, it's sort of a requirement for lead flow, is transparency. Being able to look into a report or of some sort that it tells a story about the leads you're generating and how it's impacting your business. This is really important in a very seasonal business, because the ups and the downs can be like a roller coaster unless you can do the tracking necessary so that it becomes more and more predictable. Now, we can't predict everything that's going to happen in any business, but certainly not in a seasonally driven business. You can be certain that it's going to change from time to time, but how much and for how long? Those things are unknown. Even if you've been in business for 20 years and you understand what happens every time the seasons change, but having the tracking in place that allows you to see the transparency into the ROI on your marketing strategies, the impact they make on your top line and your bottom line, and then being able to find the indicators in there where you see that demand is either increasing or decreasing, then you become a little bit more strategic. And that's the thing, is controllability or consistency, controllability and transparency give you strategy. And so specifically speaking in home services, that strategy should be going after your market in a very targeted way, understanding where you want your ads to appear and who you want them to be in front of. It's having that scalability, right? You need to be able to scale up or down because, like I said, if it's one of those busy seasons and you don't need to be paying as much for leads, you need to be able to scale down. Or you go into one of those slow seasons, or what we call a shoulder season, and you're just trying to get by to the next busy season, being able to scale up and down really, really helps. And of course, none of this is possible if what you're doing isn't trackable. And that's what I love about digital marketing, because it's very trackable, it's very scalable, and it's very targetable, if that's even a word. But you can target very, very, very finely in a digital space. And so if you have that out there and you're operating and you've got the lead flow you need and you're operating with the transparency you need, you can see what's coming. You can see how the demand is impacting your business, and you can make adjustments. Now, just because you asked what's a tip or something they could do in making adjustments, if you're finding that your ability to capture new business is waning or dropping because of the seasonality change, then get ahead of that and get in front of your previous business, right? And so something like as simple as email marketing, getting in front of them with a message, hey, Bob, you used us 6 months ago. Now we have this offer on this new thing, just whatever the message might be, to get back in front of them to as the new business starts to wane, maybe that repeat business can start to increase, and it help you sail through that slow season until you reach that next peak in the busy season. Does that make sense?
Total sense, because we've always said I'm definitely going to drop them in the description box down below. We've got a bunch of articles on this topic. We think that a healthy business has new customers, repeat customers, and additional products. And yes, it's finding a happy medium between these that usually leads to what you call the sustainable business. And I don't mean just sustainable in the ecologic term of the sense of the word, but it's a business that can sustain itself even through difficult periods. I mean, we've had we're leaving behind quite a difficult period that nobody saw coming. I mean, and if anyone anticipated this, I hope they shared their crystal ball with us, because it'd be pretty useful to know when it comes, well, God forbid it comes around again. Right. But you know what I mean? Like, a sustainable business made it through. Like, they knew what kind of adjustments to make, they knew what kind of customers they could rely on. Obviously, trades businesses were considered essential services in most areas, so obviously that helped. But at the same time, a lot of non-essential work went away. And only businesses that really understood their lead generation, that really understood their costs, their overheads, their employees, those are the businesses that came out even stronger. And I'm going to link in the box above. We have a really good episode with financial expert Ruth King, who talked us through a lot of the metrics and how to actually get down and dirty and look at your financials, look at what you're spending on, because a lot of your tips, Josh, are really good for people who are super aware, of everything that goes in their business and out of their business. But there's also, there's some situations where people might feel a little bit lost. So I reckon, the more knowledge, the more power. Absolutely. Takes us back to metrics. If you can't measure it, is it really worth doing? Are you just burning money? Of course, we don't want that. And a really good point you made, and I just wanted to reiterate, it's really important to keep track of your customers, new customers, past customers. And like you said, drop them an email from time to time, see where they're at. Maybe you are in that really amazing situation where you get so many calls that there's just no way, you have to say no to some people. Well, don't just ignore them. Drop them an email, say, hey, I can't do this. Maybe recommend someone, make some friends in the business. But at the same time, don't forget about them. Don't ignore them, because that's a customer lost for life.
Yes. Yeah. Christina, if you understand that that season is coming where you're going to get overrun with leads, and you don't want to turn away the new customers, and you certainly don't want to tell your previous customers, oh, I'm sorry, we're too busy. And so something I've seen that's worked really effectively is reaching out to those past customers before the busy season starts and say, hey, it's going to get busy around here. Think about anything you need done around your home, and we'll do it before X date for 5%, 10% discount, so that you can get it done and not get left behind. That way you can get some of those customers served and happy, and not have to turn away the business maybe from them or the new customers when the busy season starts. So there's a lot of strategy that you can use in order to just maximize and have as consistent as possible throughout the year.
And because I'm convinced someone at home is watching this and panicking and be like, how can I keep track of like hundreds of customers? I deal with so many people. Well, I might be biased, but software is a solution. At the end of the day, you got to record these people. You got to automate some of it, because you could be hiring 100 people for all we know. You could have 100 admin just sitting in the office sending out emails, but maybe that's possible. But I don't know if those people are going to be super happy just sitting and sending emails when all that could be automated and done quite easily. But okay, let's get back to our questions, Josh, because I feel like we could go on and on about this all day long. So, okay, let's say you've got a great agency, you've got a lot of good leads. What comes next? So you've got a qualified lead. What happens to them further? How do you convert them into somebody who actually puts money in your bank?
So you have to optimize the conversions, right? You've got good leads coming in. You have to optimize those conversions. And there's two really important conversions that take place. Number one is the lead converting into an appointment on your schedule so that your technicians can go out and service that call. And so that has to happen. You have to work out that. And unfortunately, we find a lot of problem areas in the call center. And it's interesting. I want you to think about this for a minute. Let's say you have a $10 million home service company. Maybe it's a $10 million electrician or plumber. And so you've got to generate, you've got all your expenses and everything that helps, that allows you to generate that revenue. But you have to generate that revenue year after year after year, even just to remain, flat. Most companies want to grow, so they have other strategies and plans and goals and objectives in place. But just status quo, you have to make $10 million a year. That's a lot of money. And so let's say maybe you're spending $1 million a year to get that 10 million. Why do I find sometimes that people working in the call center are some of the least trained and even least paid people in the organization? I'm not saying that they have to be the highest paid, but it's just an indicator to me that less attention is going into who they pick, how they train them, and why they're in their role. And when we survey a lot of these CSRs, customer service reps, they, what's your job? They boil it down to, oh, I get paid to answer the phone, answer questions, and be polite. And that's not true. They're not answered to do those things. That's certainly what they should be doing. But what they're hired to do is to convert those leads into appointments so that the technicians can go out and do the work, right? So that's they get paid. They're professionals to do what they do. So it's really important to put focus on that. If you're working with an agency and you're getting good lead flow, but you're just not converting, you got to make the effort there. In fact, I would even say maybe you hold off on going really strong with an agency until you know that area. In fact, I have that conversation all the time with new partners or prospects, and talking to them. They come to me and ask me about our services. I ask them more questions about them before I even talk about us, because I want to know, how well is your call center managed? How well are they converting leads? Because at the end of the day, if we can send all the good leads to them, if they're not converting them, they've got a problem. That's the first conversion. The second conversion is the sale in the home, right? And so that once that technician arrives, they've got to be able to diagnose the issue and pitch a price and a service and close that deal. They have to complete the sale in the home, because it does no good to put all this time and attention into marketing and all this time and attention into the call center to convert into appointments, and then the technicians just to drive out there and turn around and come back without a sale. And so you have to optimize those conversions. You have to focus on them, train on them, equip them, keep eyes on that process, making certain that you're tracking it and measuring it. Because like you said earlier, basically, I mean, what you don't measure, you can't improve, because what you measure, you can improve, right? And so that would be my advice to a company that is already getting, a good amount of leads, but they're just, the sales don't seem to be there, or the opportunities don't seem to be there. Check your call center, and then check the conversion in the home. Those are two required conversions if you want to take money and spend on marketing, and then it produce a return that goes back in the bank.
Yeah, we simply call that customer journeys.
Mm-hmm.
And I will stress the journeys part, plural,
Yeah.
because again, this can seem very overwhelming to a lot of people. Like, there's so many things I have to track. Now I have to take care of my customer service representatives. All I wanted was some emails. All I wanted was some people calling. I didn't sign up for this. But in fact, if you want to grow your business, if you want to be a business owner, a successful one, this is what you signed up for. At the end of the day, it's not easy. It's just not easy. Otherwise, you might as well not be a business owner, have a job, not worry about all this. You get your paycheck every month, easy peasy. But yeah, so customer journeys is a really good framework, at least we think so, to help people identify these areas. And what we refer to it is like lead generation is a journey. That booking people in is a journey. The pre-appointment period is a journey. Do you send people notifications? Do you send them reminders? Do you send them a service window? Are you sure they're going to be home? Or is your technician just going to waste an hour driving there and be like, oh, nobody's home, he's out, he popped to the shop? Exactly. Payment is a journey. After sales care is a journey. And then when you break it down and you sit and you try to put yourselves in the customer's shoes, like, would I like if a company treated me like this? Like, if I call, the customer service representative, and by the way, we need to stress out, nobody in a company should be disposable or considered disposable. Everyone should be trained properly, and everyone should understand, your mission and your vision. Otherwise, how can they advocate for you? Right. Not great. But so the customer journeys is a way for people to break down and identify each of these little small phases. And you don't have to do everything at once, but like you said, you need to have some things in place before you go laser focused. Yeah, I want people calling in. I want my leads. And that's a good advice you give people, Josh. Very good to hear that. Yeah. Talking about good advice, let's get some more of that. Okay. So like you said, people, sometimes they don't think about it as closing a sale. They think about, oh, it's a technician going out to a house, doing a job, coming back. What would you recommend to people, like, if they want to close more of these sales? So we've got one, you said, better customer service representatives. How do we help technicians, like, be a bit more aware of this? Yeah. What do you think?
So I've got three things I could share here, because I see this across the board with nearly every partner we work with. And so my very first thing is, if you want to increase sales in the field, you have to train those technicians to build value. In fact, I recommend that you start building value in the call center when that customer first calls in. You got to start building value right away, because think about this. The only reason someone's calling a plumber is because something bad has happened. Something broke, something won't flush, something won't drain, or there's even worse, stuff's spewing out, right? There's a mess. It's a problem. It's very frustrating. That person, I guarantee, was not counting on that happening. And I don't think that most people have money just set aside for the day that happens, and then, oh, okay, how convenient. I will now take that money and use this. No, it's going to be an inconvenience to their time, an inconvenience to their wallet, and they're not happy, right? And so they're already in a bad place. It's a very tough audience to sell to. Even though they need your service, they can always go down the road to someone else. They have options, right? And so always, always, always build value. Now, that can be difficult for someone who is really good as a technician, a very technical person. They might not also be a great communicator. Some might be, that's great. And it's not a bad thing that the technician isn't a great communicator. They don't have to be if they understand how they themselves can build value. And here's number two. Here's how I suggest, and it's be the expert. They already are the expert. Just be that expert. And so when they're in the home, they don't want to feel like that snake oil salesman, that slippery salesperson. They don't want to feel like that. So don't be like that. Just be the technician you are. You know everything you need to know about that water heater, or everything you need to know about that air conditioning system. And so just be that expert, and tell the homeowner, your customer, what they need to know about those areas, about the problem you found, about your diagnosis, right? Just be that trusted advisor. It's just like going to the doctor. When you sit there in that uncomfortable waiting room for a long period of time, and then you go into the little office, the little examination room, you're sitting on that table, all uncomfortable and nervous. You don't ever question or wonder if he or she is the expert. You know they are. And you're going to do pretty much everything they ask you to do because they are the expert. It would be kind of funny, though, if you were sitting there in the doctor's office and you said, I don't know, doc, I feel like I may need surgery. And the doctor's like, okay, lay down, let's do it. That's not going to happen because they're the expert. You wouldn't dream of asking that, and you wouldn't dream of letting that happen. Same thing when you're in the home with a plumber or with an electrician or with an AC repair person. They're the experts, and you are the audience as a customer that is wanting to hear the solution. But if you start feeling like they're trying to sell me something, oh, then okay, maybe I don't like the guy, or maybe I need to call someone else. So my advice is, as a technician, build value, be that expert. And then number three is always, always provide options. Don't just give them one big price. Provide options. And usually, if you provide three options, the homeowner usually picks number two. And so if, as a sales strategy, the option you want to sell, put it as number two. Give them the biggest option first, the most expensive one. Well, we could completely replace this entire unit, and it would be brand new, shiny, and clean, and it would cost this much. And they get to hear that price and go, oh my goodness, that is way more than I ever dreamed of. And then you can say, however, I have another option. We can make this simple repair here, and it will cost you this much. And then there is a third option. I don't recommend it, but we could just make a temporary repair. You're probably going to see us back out here in another few months. So you give them the three options, the three prices. They're going to pick the middle one. And then because you've been the expert already, they trust you. And so I've seen, because I've gotten involved in the sales process too, not just on the lead generation, because we partner with our clients, our partners, and we want to know what's going on in their business. Those technicians that have the highest sales are also those that say this very simple thing, and anyone can adopt this and use it immediately. And it's, when you show the options, tell the customer, if this was my house, I would be doing this. That right there builds so much trust and takes so much anxiety and pressure off the customer that they go, you know what? I trust this guy. I trust this girl. They've done a great job diagnosing this. They've really represented their organization well, and I like them. And I want the option that they recommend because they would do it in their home. Now, I have to say this. This only works if you're honest. and you're upstanding and you're good to your customers. And you know what? 99% of organizations out there are. There is that 1% that's out there to try to cheat and steal and whatever it might be. I know none of those folks are listening or watching. Only the other 99% are. And I'm telling you, if you build value and you encourage those technicians to be the experts they are, and then provide options, I don't know why the homeowner wouldn't pick an option, do the service, and your technician puts money in the bank on nearly every single appointment they go on.
If you're listening at home, this is one. If you're watching us at home or on the road or in the office, this is the most important thing. And if it's one thing that you can go out and do right away, as soon as you close this video, give people options. But of course, like you said, Josh, it's a lot of it is based on having that, those perfect customer journeys before, because you're already somebody the customer trusts. And at the end of the day, we should never underestimate the power of the technician being present, having a face-to-face conversation with the customer. Because at the end of the day, most likely, unless you have a shop front, they're the only person in your company that they're going to interact with face-to-face.
That's right.
And that's super powerful. That's super powerful. And like you said, good, better, best pricing works like magic. And I'm going to link, we have an episode dedicated to that. Another lovely expert, Danielle, she goes through all the nitty gritty about setting prices and doing this kind of silver, gold, diamond that you see everywhere. I mean, if you look at any company, you're going to see these options. You see it in phone models, you see it when you pay your Netflix subscription. It works. That's why they do it. There's no way around it. And like you said, very few people want to be, choose the cheapest version. So this is also how you get around one of the issues that at least we hear from a lot of our clients in the US. Well, the other guy is charging a lot less than I am. I can't afford to charge that. Maybe that's true. You don't know what the other guy is doing. You don't know what kind of corners they're cutting. You're not pricing based on what the other guy is doing. You're pricing based on your costs. We go back to what we discussed today. I'm sure we could make this conversation last for hours and hours, but get better pricing, give people options, be transparent, train your technicians. Well, Josh, you've answered all of my questions and more. My final one is there anything else you'd like to add? Any message you want to give people at home? What do you think?
I think if I could leave with this, we specialize in digital marketing for home services. And in that, over these 10 years, and then years prior, I've come across some folks that have been burned, right? So they're very skeptical of how all this works. Is Google just taking my money? Is this agency just taking my money? And it's unfortunate that in this space, there's so many people that have been, they've gone with the wrong agency or person, and it's just really made a problem for them. I just want you to take a step back and think, because some people have sworn off digital marketing and say, oh, no, we're not going to do that anymore. Well, think about it. It's 2021, almost 2022. I'm not sure when this is being played, but I can't imagine a business surviving without the internet. So here's the thing. Stop buying leads. Stop. I get questions from folks that say, how much should I be paying per lead? And there's answers to those questions. But my problem with is the question behind the question, or the purpose behind the question. Why is it that that's what their focus is on? Because quite honestly, if you could take $10 and turn it into $100, that's great. And how you wouldn't need a budget for that. You would just do that all day long and go. But when they start asking specific questions like that, I find that it comes from a place of maybe someone has taken advantage of them, or they've lost trust or lost faith in that practice or in that channel of marketing. And so I know it's tough, but you have to find someone to partner with. You have to have a partner, and it's someone you can trust. It's not just you sign up and they send you leads. There must be a process of communication, of understanding each other's businesses. And this might sound overwhelming, but it's not. You do it all day long with your own customers. You do it all day long with your employees, and have the partner out there that handles the digital marketing side for you, so that you can generate that lead flow, so that your business can grow and survive and go through the ups and the downs. And God forbid, like you said, Christina, if there's another pandemic, whatever it might be, you can't go at it alone. And don't lose trust in some sort of marketing channel because it's been painful in the past. You just probably didn't have the right team, the right partner. But if you step back and look at it, it's clear I must have a digital presence. But there are things that we mentioned earlier, like making sure you can track it and measure it and understand what you determine as a lead and what your agency determines as a lead. That all comes through communication and understanding and partnering together.
There you have it. So if I were to sum up a few of the things we talked about today, and I feel like we covered so much in so little time, but kind of like the key takeaways. So folks listening at home, you want to have a call flow. You want people coming in. You don't want to be struggling, and you don't want to be burnt out either. You want demand to be consistent. And this is directly related to how consistent your cash flow is going to be at the end of the year. Then second, an agency can be just the right partner, especially if you already have a person in your company doing marketing, but you want the best at the end of the day. And an agency is probably quite capable of providing that. Like Josh said, sometimes there's good people, there's bad people out there, but make sure you communicate with your agency. Make sure you research them properly, read reviews, have meeting with them. Don't simply show up and say, okay, I want 100 leads per day. That's not the best way to strike up a partnership. You want to grow together. So the best way is to make sure you have your metrics and you have the correct metrics. What you want is qualified leads, not just names and phone numbers. You want people who are able to hire you, whether that's homeowners, business owners, all depends on who you work with. And a good agency is going to understand that. Then what you want is to be able to forecast. You want to be aware of everything that goes in your business and out of your business, because this way you know who to hire, you know how much you want to invest in your digital partners, and you're able to grow more sustainably. And then finally, what you want to do is make sure that you have all the processes in place to support all the leads that are going to come in. Because a good digital agency is definitely going to do that for you. You're definitely going to have, your phone is going to be ringing off the hook, but are you able to handle that? And I think that's a really big and scary question, but a good business owner is going to be able to answer it. They're going to have the right customer service people, the right technician with the right sales skills. And that's how you grow a business. Is that right, Josh?
Absolutely. You said it so well. You didn't even need me today. You could have just closed with that and it would have been great.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Josh. And there you have it. Josh Moran of Vital Store. If you want to get in touch with Josh and start filling up your calendar, simply click the link in the description box down below. And that's all for today. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the Commusoft channel. I'm Christina, Marketing Executive at Commusoft, and I'll see you next time.